Make America great, not the land of hate. Again, make America great. Great like jazz. Great like hip-hop. Great like powwows. Great like Chinese railroad workers. Great like Noto boys. And yes, 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 on the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Make America great, not the land of hate. Again, not the land of tarred Catholic priests and lynched Italian Americans. Make America great, not the land of fake like presidents who deny climate change, fracking brains, nothing sane, politicians who want to mass incarcerate. We can make America great.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's performance show celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander Month. This is our second part of our May series featuring the works of Frances Wong, and I am thrilled. First week was Romance to Revolution. And you heard in the waiting room, you heard High River, that featured, that's a work by Frances that was featured last week. And you also heard a piece called Spirit Dance, and that is featuring myself with a colleague of mine, Matthew Woodson. But now, before we get on with the show, I'd like to thank so much the people making the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center, Asian Improv Nation, Racial Justice from the Heart, our sponsors for today's event. Thank you. And I also would like to say that I would not have been able to meet Frances Wong without Dr. Amanda Kemp right here. So, and Dr. Amanda Kemp.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Founder of Racial Justice from the Heart and Theater for Transformation, and also my partner in this journey called life.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for being here. And
thank you to all the people.
Yes, thank you to all the people for attending last week and this week. And now, on to... What?
I'm distracting you.
You are distracting me. She was in it last week. Frances Wong. Yay! In the house. Frances is the incredible musician, saxophonist extraordinaire, activist, co-founder of Asian Improv Arts, and community builder. And I guess that's how I know Frances the most, as a community builder. And it's on the faculty of San Francisco State University in the Asian American Studies. The list goes on, and we have quite a show today. Revolution. And so, and I actually would like to, before we go on and hear from Frances, I'd like to show a little bit of what Frances has done here in Lancaster, PA, with an organization that I work with, Music for Everyone. And this is just a glimpse of our lunch hour break at our summer camp when Frances is on board. What happens? Take it away, Francis. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Amanda, for having me, and for I guess we've really been working together pretty intensely since what, 2013 or something like that.
2014.
2013.
14, right?
We met in 2013, but Ferguson was
Oh yeah,
That was the
2014.
beginning, yes.
yeah. Well, I think that's kind of what it means to step up and take a stand, is for us all to do our work at an intensified level. And I feel grateful to have, I feel, what do you call it, connected, you
Yeah.
know, as a result of our work, and to feel like we've tried to do something, and we've tried to take part in what's going on,
Yeah.
And I just wanted to talk about, well, okay, just watching that clip just brought back some memories of my time working with the young people in Lancaster, and just feeling quite blessed to have had that opportunity. And I'm really excited about that. Some of the young people will be performing as part of this program, and just I think it's kind of one of those things, like as a musician and activist, kind of being able to bring this together, in writing pieces that can be played and can express something. We can express something, some solidarity, a vision together through our music. So thank you again, both of you, for bringing me and inviting me into your community, and just it's been amazing.
Well, thank you.
So to kind of continue from last week, we talked about last week in terms of the romance, meaning how music and our life as expressions of our different kinds of love, languages of love, and that encapsulates what kind of passion, but also a vision, for what we would like to see. And so this week, we're gonna address this issue of revolution, in the sense that a way to look at American society, and this is kind of a new, well, it's not that new, but an alternative view of American history as a revolutionary process. Okay, and so we've all heard of, well, maybe some of us haven't heard, but there's America was what is called the American Revolutionary War, right? George Washington and all that, and then, but I think one of the things that Theater for Transformation, and Amanda, in your work about the anniversary of the 14th Amendment, was how that the Civil War and the resulting changes to the Constitution, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, represented in some way, a second American Revolution. And in so many ways, and then I guess the ensuing Reconstruction was an effort to institutionalize that second American Revolution. But today we are still fighting the unfinished business of the Civil War, because the promise of Reconstruction was betrayed by Jim Crow. And it's not a coincidence that the Chinese Exclusion Act was part of what happened in the betrayal of Reconstruction, and the fact that such important figures as Frederick Douglass spoke out against the Chinese Exclusion Act, because he recognized that, as early as the 1870s, and that the United States was going to change in terms of the kinds of people that are going to make America. And so I just think that our work is part of a process of revolutionary change in this country. And so that's kind of brings me to this first piece, right? I can go to the first piece, right? It's this piece. It's called "The Fire This Time," and this is inspired by the James Baldwin collection of essays called "The Fire Next Time." And I guess, for those of you who are not familiar with the reference, the title for "The Fire Next Time" came from a black spiritual called "Oh Mary, Don't You Weep." And let's see, the line is, God gave Moses the rainbow sign, no more water, but fire next time. So that's kind of like because sometimes for those of us who are oppressed in this country, we do think the Bible is a way to think about the captivity that's in that story in the Bible, is a way to think about our situation. I remember even my son, when he was in high school, he talked about the incarceration of Japanese Americans in a similar way. And so, but the idea is that the fire's coming, but I also feel like the fire is already here. And
yes,
and I don't think that, even though this piece was written in 2008, it's remounting it today is in the context of the response to the killing of George Floyd and the movement for Black Lives. And I kind of think that that we are once again kind of bringing up this kind of the fire of change and how it's massive, it's massive, and that I see trying to contribute through the music. And so here's the fire this time.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you. You know what I love, Francis, about your music, and it kind of, it's it's just in everything you do, you leave so much room for interpretation, and like I can play that piece every time, a million times, a different way, and it's just such a powerful work to be able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think Toni Morrison was talking about writing in such a way that you left space for the reader to create. So it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to master.
Right.
And I also just want to say, wow, I love that.
And let's give a shout out to Matt
Woodson.
Woodson. He might chime in today at some point.
Yeah, but did you see Michael's butt wiggling? Yeah, got the violin to do a groove.
My teacher when I was in I think in junior high or 6th and 7th grade, because I was quite a chubby guy back then, and I play like that, and he'd call me Chubby Checker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly something to immerse yourself in.
Right.
It's an immersion.
Well, and I just loved what Matt did on that. To put the 6/8 underneath there. And it really drove the piece, and at the same time it created that. What did Martin Luther King call the revolutionary tension?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, amped up the tension. Yeah.
That captured that.
And the other thing about Francis's work is that you are very good at going from the micro, from like a solo or duo, to a piece that could become like an entire ensemble or an orchestra, could have done that piece.
Right.
Someday. Yeah.
That's right. Someday.
And I would love to hear it.
Well, we'll make it happen, because I think a whole movement can start with just a small group of people. So, and I think that's actually a good segue to the next piece, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, because I guess so. The next piece is called Joseph Pierce at Appomattox.
Yes.
And it's going to be performed by Michael and the faculty, Matt and Rick, with the music for everyone's strings, right?
Right. But we have we have Matt and Rick and we have some alumni from Music for Everyone that you worked with way back, who have
They're in college now.
They're in college, yeah. And they started with us in 4th grade, and so they've been part of this movement.
Yes. And this was our backyard.
Yeah. That's right. This was our backyard. And you have been with Music for Everyone even through this whole pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been creating music together. And just last week you were on our Zoom ensemble call.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a very impromptu moment. But actually, Mark, our Zoom driver, if you have, before we go on to Joseph Pierce, I'd love to just share what Francis was able to get out of these kids and just have, which was already inside of them.
Right.
And this is just a little glimpse of what happened, I guess, a couple days ago. So,
There's always a soloist out there.
and that was Francis.
Oh, that was you, Francis.
I went through the classroom and then I was leaving in the hall. So
That's right. And that was all chiming in from San Francisco into our Zoom call. It was pretty incredible.
Well, what was that was actually we layered that one musician at a time onto Soundtrap, and I think the exercise was really about not asking for permission to improvise.
That's right.
Not asking for permission to be creative, and I think that was really what we were trying to do, because I think that permission thing really keeps one from actually saying what one needs to say. So.
And at one point, the one gentleman in the class said, "He has no idea what he's doing," and we caught that on tape.
Yeah.
And it was great. So,
Great.
yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to chime in with that before we go on.
And we have some celebrities on. I see the great poet Jenny Lim
Oh yeah.
has made a comment. She said, "Bravo, powerful composition and fiddle playing."
Great.
Thanks for being here, Jenny Lim.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny.
Yes, thank you.
One of my mentors and inspirations, Jenny Lim. Yeah. So actually, this next piece, then it's called Joseph Pierce at Appomattox, and it's inspired by the story of Joseph Pierce, who was a Chinese American who fought in the American Civil War. So people really don't know this history about how, although there was a very small number of Chinese Americans on the East Coast at the time, quite a few Chinese Americans joined, well, actually fought on both sides, but Joseph fought on the Union side. There's a lot of stories about how he came to be in the United States. Some of the stories talk about how he was sold to a ship captain from Connecticut, and who brought him to back to Connecticut. And as Connecticut was a free state, he was given his freedom, and he took the name Pierce because that was the name of the president at the time. And so there's some research, by from the Chinese Historical Society of America's historian Ruth Ann Lum McCunn, who writes about, actually did a book with the National Park Service about Chinese Asian APIs in the Civil War, in America's war. So, but anyway, Joseph, he joined the Union Army and actually fought. His first battle was Antietam, which is still considered one of the bloodiest battles of in American history. And then he also he went on to fight at Gettysburg. And the reason why we know about him, because his he what's it called? Distinguished himself in battle at the Battle of Gettysburg, and that's why his pictures was put up in regimental history, but also at the museum there. And so that's how a lot of us first found out about him. And he survived the war. He was at Appomattox, which was when Lee surrendered to Grant, and then he lived until 1916, a whole, what is that? What's the like 61 years after the Civil War. So wrote this piece, and actually it was inspired because when I was helping with MFE at the Crispus Attucks Center, they actually had a display about black soldiers in the Civil War. So I thought, oh yeah, I should write a piece of music for Joseph Pierce. So here we go.
first violinist.
I unmuted you.
Oh.
You heard that comment.
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much. Love you guys, MFB.
I don't know if anyone from MFE is on today, but
Yeah.
but I have to say that was we've been all virtual for the past 14 months, and that was the first time they played together. And so we had our recording session out here in the backyard of my house, and it was really great just being together. You know, just the community. You recognize how important it is to have those moments, and some of those kids, like the one Jeremiah, he's been playing Joseph Pierce throughout its how it's evolved in many different formats. So it's been a really great experience to have this your literature that you presented. I presented all over the place, and for the kids to learn about it. History packed.
Yeah. I remember when we did this piece at the statewide association for Pennsylvania of the Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated sorority. It is a historically black sorority.
Yes.
And you guys got a standing ovation.
Yeah. There were 600 of them.
Yeah. Somebody came up to give Michael a check. We're like, yeah, we need some more of that music. That makes people want to hand over checks.
Well, support, I mean, it's participation, in whatever,
Yes.
What is it by any means necessary?
Yes, that's right. Including, and that is a good, actually, opportunity to remind people that this show is something that you can support by making a donation to the Jamanis Project. This is the third concert series, I think
This
you've
is
had.
the third concert. February and April and now May.
Yeah.
No, there's more to come.
More to come. So if you want to see more stuff like this, please go ahead and put some cha-ching.
Yeah, it's in the chat. I think there's a link to donate in the chat.
So it looks like you got some great comments too. I don't know if you want to hear any of them.
I think we're going to move on to
We're moving forward.
Yeah, because there will be a Q&A afterwards. So,
Okay.
And there is more content, a lot of content.
Okay.
So this next piece is called Sorrow, and there's kind of an evolution of this piece, and it's become a its own statement, okay? Because a lot of my pieces start with this particular experience, but then this particular one has really kind of it became its title, Sorrow. And so we're using this as this performance as an opportunity to actually talk about through my father's experience in World War II in China, and because one of the things that was key to the lifting of the Chinese Exclusion Act was the fact that the U.S. and China were in an alliance against fascism in World War II. And how really, because World War II was an all-hands-on-deck kind of situation for the world in terms of fighting fascism, then it wasn't really the beginning, a major watershed in civil rights in this country. So for Asian Americans and particularly African Americans had this slogan, double V, double victory, in terms of victory over fascism abroad, victory over racism at home. And so I always think about World War II as, when we think about civil rights, we really have to go back to World War II, and then I personally have history because my father, even though he was a Chinese national, he was part of a U.S. State Department team that kept the supply line open between India and the Chinese capital, Chinese resistance forces. And so so this is Sorrow. So this kind of captures more some of the sadness and perhaps some of the hope that he had in terms of fighting in that war. I just want to start. I've been doing these little chapbooks on things. They're not really. I'm doing it more for me and my family. You know, maybe at some point they'll be available. But I just wanted to read, you know, this thing about my father, and then you're going to see his images later in the performance. George was living in Tientsin or Tianjin when the 1937 Sino-Japanese War began. He lived in the British concession at the time, which was not directly affected, as Britain was not at war with Japan yet. He, however, witnessed the bombing of the city from his rooftop. He remembers how the Japanese targeted the university because they were after students who represented the potential officer corps for China. And George would eventually join the war in southwest China in the China-Burma-India theater, working with the U.S. State Department through his connection with his dad's friend and associate in the auto business, Robert McCann. He would participate in efforts to keep open the Burma Road, the lifeline to China's resistance to Japan. Among his many duties was working on trucks and other vehicles necessary for transporting military equipment on the Burma Road between India and Kunming. He recalls fixing a stalled jeep for a surprised and happy U.S. Army officer one day. He said this captain came up and says, my jeep's broken. And then my dad opened it up and he kind of jiggled things around and the car started. And so it's kind of like this, this white American captain, and then he comes up and then here's this Chinese guy comes up and fixes his jeep. And in some ways that's kind of like the cooperation that needed to take place to fight fascism in World War II. So anyway, but I think it's important to remember how much suffering and trauma that people went through during the war, and even though my father was fighting against that, he felt that trauma, and I try to appreciate that. My father's 100 years old, and he's still alive, and I try to appreciate that trauma that he went through in this. And so this piece, I think, kind of has some of that in terms of the trauma, but also there's some way in which, Michael, you're playing this piece in terms of there's a breathing in it that kind of has a certain mindfulness embedded in it. So, yeah, sorrow.
Thank you, Francis. That was to be able to share yourself like that, and the ability to write such a piece that's so much from your heart, and for us to be able to transfer it to us and how we are feeling it at the moment. When I made that recording, I had no idea that was going to be the one I was going to use today, because it was a morning, and it was difficult thoughts going on at night, not being able to sleep for about 3 hours, and then I thought, okay, well, let me just play this outside and hear the birds. And it was healing. It was a healing experience for me to have. So I'm very grateful to have that, have that presented, so I could use it for my own, like you said, mindfulness, meditation. So that was, and then, we all have context so we all have context of sorrow and hope and how it's brought together. And music is such a powerful, the vibrational power of music is healing in that in that way. Yeah. You're muted, Francis.
I'm thankful that that this my project was actually to write my pieces down, because I'm mostly an improvising musician and kind of the oral tradition, but I've decided to write pieces down so that other people it can be shared, that people can kind of learn some of my language, but they also can use it for their own purposes, and as reading material, or and it's really eye-opening to see how you play this piece, because then I can just see that you're in it, and it's kind of shows this other dimension that I didn't really think about it when I was writing it, and so to have that sense of transmission, is just a really a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that this will be a segue on to our next one.
All right.
And actually, I do want to show a shirt that
okay.
I was at a spoken word event last night that I played at, and I got this shirt right here. It's a spoken music. And then I thought to myself, wow, what we're doing, what you're doing, it's music spoken. Yeah. And that's, I thought, wow, that's kind of and it's so true. They just, the music is really speaking to us.
Yeah.
To end with you and your words, Dr. Kemp.
Yeah, that's a nice segue. So I'm just going to read a little bit of a piece called I Remember Tiananmen 1989. And this is something that Francis, Michael, Matt Armstead, and I, and Jerry, I think so, collaborated in. And so as Francis says, he works a lot of improvisation. And before I worked with Francis, the reason why I sought him out was because I felt like I had boxed myself in with writing plays, and I wanted to get more into spoken word, and I wanted to address contemporary issues, even though I went back to 1989 because I love history. But nonetheless, I wanted to, you'll see in this piece, I bring it into the current moment. And the current moment for this was 2014 and 15, when the sustained uprising was happening in Ferguson, and Matthew was working in Ferguson and doing stuff also in communities in Philly. So, is that say enough?
No, well, I think that was good. I also, we're going to show a slideshow along with it.
Okay, so
that goes with it.
Awesome. So this is a slideshow that
was set to the music.
we put together to go with the music that was, I think, primarily crafted by Francis, because it was an interweaving of "We Shall Overcome" and which is African American spiritual, and "Bloodstained Glory," which is a patriotic Chinese nationalist song, right?
Yes.
From the 70s. So more could be said. I'll just share, and then we'll let Francis do more of the talking. I remember Tiananmen 1989. I remember students. The lone man with the shopping bags, one in each hand. White collared shirt. A man facing tanks. Dancing with tanks. I remember thousands in the square, April turning into May 1989. Young people, students, workers, teachers, demanding, creating something new. Thousands in the square demanding, creating something new. China anew. Students wearing smocks that said, "We shall overcome." I remember students singing, students building a goddess called democracy. In 1989, students wearing smocks that said, "We shall overcome." I remember soldiers, troops, armies rolling into the square in June 1989. I didn't know then what I know now. Why we are here now. At a square, at a police station, at a courtroom, at a pipeline, at a bank, at a die-in. Shall we overcome? Shall we? Shall we overcome? Or overthrow? So, did you want to say something about it?
Well, no, I'm just letting it sit in.
Oh, okay.
Because there's some powerful words that were said, and so what we're going to do now, though, is hear once again the Music for Everyone group, because this is another piece that Francis has yet arranged into several different formats, and this is the first time they actually ever got together and looked at this piece, because we haven't been able to get together. So I think in essence they're overcoming a certain their own educational difficulty, isolation, and this was the first time we were together, and so this is that what happened that night. And Francis, what would you like?
Just two things. One, well, thank you, Amanda, for being the really the inspiration for this video, because of what you pointed out about seeing the "We Shall Overcome" image, and because I had played in John Jang's piece called Tiananmen, and that's where I learned that Chinese patriotic song, which was a patriotic song during one of the wars, the China-Vietnam War, but the protesters that adopted it as a anthem for their movement, and it continued in Hong Kong, and of course some of you know about how the struggle was continued in Hong Kong, and then linking it with "We Shall Overcome." So I think basically for those of you to hearing, there's these two anthems of movements going on here, and really a discourse, and I just feel like it's it was pretty powerful piece of work.
Yeah, and it's so juicy, because you have this is a Francis Wong trademark, bringing in African American spirituals or Black music in conversation with Asian American, Chinese American themes. So, and I really do want to talk more about it, but let's hear the students. That's great.
Well, that was a very unique performance
Yes.
of I remember
Tiananmen,
Tiananmen.
1989.
Yes.
We are going to put a link in the chat for
yes.
the recording of Francis doing it.
Yes.
And Michael and Matt and Jerry, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there'll be a link in the chat to the
SoundCloud.
right, and it'll have a number of other. I think it's a link to the Theater for Transformation.
Yeah.
SoundCloud.
So I don't know if you wanted to speak anything about this tendency you have, or your thoughts about black music, Francis, and why it seems to always kind of weave its way into your creations. Like when I heard Joseph Pierce for the first time, you were commissioned by Theater for Transformation, and I remember thinking, oh, it's like I recognized it. I was like, oh, wait, now this is sounding Chinese, So I wondered if you wanted to talk about this thing that's happening in your music. Am I taking us off track? Are we on this?
We have one more work.
Oh, one more work. Okay, but do you want to say anything about it?
Sure. I mean, I think that I came. I studied music as a kid. I played the violin, like I mentioned last week, but I got inspired to be music because of the Black Arts Movement and the music of the Black Arts Movement. John Coltrane, Sun Ra, Cecil Taylor, and the fact that Malcolm X was and actually Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, all kind of were inspired by this music. And so I found my purpose through training and being mentored by black musicians. And so that's always going to be carried with me. But one of the things that my mentors would told me, and my peers like John Jang, is to be ourselves and to bring ourselves into the music. So just basically following that direction of trying to, in different ways, to bring my heritage, specific heritage of being Chinese in America, into this kind of approach to making music that's really born out of the black music tradition. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more could be said. Michael says we have one more piece, and then we have so many comments I want to look at over in the chat.
Sure. So this last piece is a piece called Lenora Steps, and since we're talking about movement, I've always been inspired by dancers, choreographers, and in particular over the last, I don't want to say how long, but I've been working with Lenora Lee to create music and movement as a piece together. And so and then also I wanted to mention that a lot of this with dance projects that I've done with Lenora has been about claiming space and making space and keeping space, and a space for creativity, a space for our passion, a space for social justice, a space, to borrow from your book, Amanda, a space for holding space for transformation. And so this piece is inspired by Lenora's movement, and I think we're going to have some slides of some of those two pieces. One was from a piece called Eye of Compassion that is the history of Cameron House in Chinatown, and the other one is from a piece that we did called Double Victory, which I mentioned earlier, which is really about the contributions of people of color in World War II. So and just and then this piece, it's fabulous to hear Michael playing this one, because it's kind of my effort to put a little bit more of my improvisational language to codify it in a notated piece. So, and I don't know, Michael, did you want to say anything about playing this piece, or maybe we should wait till afterwards?
Let's hear it. Let's see it.
Michael.
Thank you, Francis. You know, it's so great how you can bring everything together in your playing, in your music. Like the improvisatory nature of this and how you articulated it, and how it, when I'm playing it, it just, I can hear the movement in it. I'm feeling it, I'm hearing it, I'm visually interpreting it, and it's not an easy piece to play. And it's keeping me on my toes technically too. So, but because of that, you can, because of the difficulties involved, it gives you a lot of room to interpret different kinds of movement too. So that it's your music is very rewarding to perform, or else I wouldn't be doing this. It's my own selfish motive putting on this show.
And I just remember being at a rehearsal where, before you recorded this for Francis, and at a rehearsal, the dancer was there, and Lenora Lee was talking the dancer through the movement. She had it in her body, but Lenora was talking her through it, and because Michael was taking his cues from the movement.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes.
So it's very interesting how interwoven it is. And then you said you could see the movement in your head, so you're probably going back, forth of memory. You got dogs.
Yeah, we have a dog in the background. and you know, and it's also amazing because there's the power of music and the memory. You have some key like I remember playing that piece. I remember being very cold at the fort that time, and it's just like eating certain foods bring you back to a certain time, and so you can almost, if you want to be brought back somewhere, like rather than traveling somewhere, just play my instrument under the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, or it's the power of music for that. Yeah.
Well, you know, thank you for, you know, owning the piece, you know, in a sense, because that's one of the challenges, actually, of being, you know, Asian American composer, is that oftentimes the only way our music can be heard is by us performing it ourselves, you know, and that's really wonderful. But I think for us to leave a mark in this country, our pieces have to be played by everybody in this society, and I think that's why I've taken the step to try to, you know, I guess self-document. I think is kind of like what it's about, and self-document, and then to have a relationship with folks who will try to own this music together. You know, it's not just my music, but it's I think the society's legacy, at least trying to contribute to that. So I want to thank you for really being such an important part of this process, because without you, the music wouldn't be continued. I mean, I've had many performances of this piece, and I think that, you know, I owe that to you, you know, in terms of your commitment.
No, thank you. Well, it's certainly a pleasure. I feel, you know, honored, and it's what I want to do.
Right.
It's what I want to do.
And when we went to Double Victory, because I think this was also performed at Double Victory, right?
Yes.
And Mike was talking about at Point
Park.
What is it called, Francis?
Fort Point.
Fort Point, right. And that was where it was part of the exhibit. So you work a lot multimedia with dancing, and then there was the historical exhibit, and then you brought together this incredible, crazy ensemble of musicians of various backgrounds, and with me doing some poetry and praying. So you really are creator of, I don't want to just call it events, maybe creator of a happening, you know, creating an energetic vortex. You know what I'm saying with what you do?
Community builder sounds very small.
Yes, it's bigger than. But he did build community.
Yes, everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere.
But you also opened it up.
Right.
I feel like for, you know, vibrationally on a frequency level, for good things to move in and support us.
Was
that's my spiritual talk.
an opportunity to be immersed. So I'm quite influenced by Lenora's, some of her approaches to what she calls immersive theater, and I think
Yes.
I just feel fortunate to be able to participate and to have a hand in or consciously, because music always does that, but I think that oftentimes we miss the opportunity that music can have to really immerse people.
I think I know we've gone a little over time, and this is the nature of but we're in time.
Right. We're not on time, but we're in
time. So let's open it up to some conversation, have some questions, and maybe read some of the chat.
You've had lots of praise here in the chat. Going back to earlier in the performance, Genevieve L says, "Bravo, powerful composition and fiddle playing."
Oh, thank you.
Goes up. Susan A saying, "That piece was amazing. I like the strong rhythmic drive and contrasting sections. Wasn't violin your first instrument? Please write more for violin." I think that was directed towards Francis.
Yeah.
Genevieve L also says, "Joseph Pierce is smiling down" after the Joseph Pierce piece. Yumi H says, "Wow, loving all the music and stories." We have Jamie R saying, "So great." Rachel Weber says, "Beautiful music, story, and photos." Jamie R, "Sorrow, completely. So appreciate the images shared last week and this week as well."
Yeah.
Judith N liked the birds improvising with Michael along with the one recording. So Francis. And Susan A asked for the name of the Chinese patriotic song, and I believe that was what you put that in the chat there, Francis, that Bloodstained Glory. Mary KL says, "Music to dance and dream to."
And Mary KL does that.
Oh, yes, that's exactly what she does. You're right. She's a dance therapist.
Layla S says, "This is so lovely. Thank you all so much."
Thank you.
And Madhuri says, "I am painting to the music, so I'm late posting this. My father drove a truck along the Burma Road as a young American soldier. I wonder if my dad was the one whose truck was fixed, or if he met his father. We are closer than we can imagine."
Sure.
And you're painting, she's painting to this.
And
I'd love to see the painting.
that would be great. And Hang T says, "I love the word community builder. Francis, you really are a community builder. Thank you for such great music."
Oh, thanks, Hank.
Yes.
And if we make our way over to the Q&A, there is one question in the Q&A section as well. Jamie R says, "Francis's music is exquisite and often intricate. What are some of the strengths and some of the challenges that younger musicians have when you work with them, when they encounter and tackle these pieces?"
Is that a question for me or for Francis or for both of us? Probably. From my own personal experience, the kids working on your music, it's not a challenge because your music opens them up. It's actually a liberation. I really feel that. And your music has a very special effect. So it breaks down challenges and creates opportunities and possibilities. So it's kind of a flip side. So really that, I guess the one thing is to have the kids feel that freedom, because they have been trained in the structure. That would be the challenge from my perspective that I find, and that was a challenge for me too when I first met you. So just to find that inner freedom in myself that exists.
I just remember Francis just would be like, "Okay, now your turn." Mike would be like,
What kind of?
"You remember?" I remember. He was like,
Go back to the tent, baby.
I don't know. I don't do, what is this improvisation? I remember. So just when you talking about your students, the challenge, you had that challenge.
Yeah.
And, but it resonated with you.
Yes.
You know?
That's a challenge.
That process
to be
of
free.
music making resonated with you.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you wanted to bring it to your kids.
Right.
Because you could have just been doing what you normally do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important. I think now more than ever people are recognizing that these kids have to break out of the box, and they're already broken out to begin with, but then we tend to
squish them.
Yeah, we tend to put them in a box. So.
Well, I just know that when I've been at McCaskey at the high school, and we did we made pieces together with poetry that they had also written. It was just this feeling of wow, we can do this. We can make our own music. We can make our own text, but I think a lot of the challenge has to do with creating spaces where that is allowed. And I know it's, to me, I always think of like the was it Colleen, the teacher?
Colette.
Colette, teaches at McCaskey, as really creating that piece, because I remember this one time we were playing my piece Shanghai Stories, which was really a blues riff and improvisation, and then it was 90 kids with their instruments, and
yes,
and Colette goes, okay, there you go. And and this sense that whatever they did was really a contribution, and it wasn't really about managing 90 people. It was really about kind of having a space where people felt really like they could have fun and they could be creative and all that. So but I think a lot of times in our society the biggest challenge is creating space for creativity. And for people to, and part of that has to do with feeling comfortable in that, so like even in my ethnic studies classes, the student says, oh, we can do that, so I think that, just like one of my courses, I said, well, you can write a paper on any topic you want. He says, really? So I think that's kind of, I would feel that because as a community organizer, I've learned over the years that we accept people with whatever they bring into the room, and so, but oftentimes people don't feel like they've been validated or valued for what they bring into the room, and so that's one of the first barriers that we have to break down,
And you definitely do that, Francis.
Yes.
Because I remember Michael saying to me, Francis makes me sound good.
That's right. I just always need a little more Francis Wong in my life.
Yeah, he was always like, wow, yeah, Francis made me sound good. And that's because you think, you go, okay, your turn. You know people have that in them.
You know what's in there.
Yeah.
You know what's in there.
And you're just like, okay, now it's your turn. And it's not like, do you have it? Is it good enough?
Right. Is it good enough? That's the ongoing
And
thing.
I remember we first started collaborating. It was me, Francis, and Michael. Michael's on violin. I'm just starting to do it in spoken word after having done all these very texty plays. And then Francis, being Francis, doing his thing. We met in New Hampshire.
Yes.
Remember? At a music retreat center. And I remember Francis said, okay, give us some words now. And I was like, oh, okay, some words, I just started riffing.
Yes.
So, yeah, Francis, that is that starting point of valuing what people have and knowing they have it in them. You do that. And another mentor of mine, Neonu Span, who's a vocalist and a composer, she also does that.
Yes.
This very same thing of like
creates music.
Yes.
Pulling it
out.
It just happens.
Yes, and magnetizing it. Knowing it's right there in people all the time.
And you get it out of them.
Well, what's the expression we use? I see you. I hear you. We hear each other. And I think that's part of the process is for us to be able to see each other and to hear each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we do. We see each other. We hear each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, this has been quite an
Thank
incredible journey, Francis. Thank you.
Yeah. That's right.
Last week and this week. And so I think, we're going to have to kind of come to a close here. And I know we're gonna go out the same way we went out last week. So if you and talk about all the community building and getting things out of people and just activism and everything that you've done and are continuing to do and making a difference and stepping up.
Well, I just want to re-emphasize, this idea that there's a larger context, of history, and I guess, Amir Baraka used to talk about the motion of history, and I think, to be able to make a contribution is the greatest thing, and to recognize that there is an unbroken thread, when we think about it, in terms of from the past and into the future, and the more that we can cultivate and move forward on the path, I think that's how we're going to change the society, and we have changed the society. We have made history, and we will make more history, and we will make an equitable society.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Now we're gonna let the room
Everybody.
hang on. We're gonna hear a prayer for Melvin Trust and more about why you do what you do and what it is.
Mhm.
So, and we'll keep the room going.
All right.
Okay, great.
Over the years, we've had to play this piece many times, and so I think it's this music. It's just part of a tradition of resistance and a tradition of calling out, to cry for justice.